From SBI's Executive Briefing Center in Dallas, Texas, the most watched and listened to content in B2B sales and marketing, it's the SBI Podcast with your host, Matt Shares.
Welcome to SBI TV, a weekly show dedicated to helping you make your number. Today we're going to demonstrate the case for why you should stand up a separate customer success function. My name is Matt Shares. I'm the CEO of SBI. I'm also your host. Joining me in the studio today is Dave Moore. Dave is the Senior Vice President of Sales for Businessolver. So Dave, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Matt.
Good to see you, brother.
Good to see you too.
So for those that don't know, which unfortunately might be more than you would like, can you explain a little bit about who Businessolver is, what you do, and then talk a little bit about your background and how you ascended to the role that you're in now?
Absolutely. So Businessolver is a leading provider of benefits administration, technology, and services. So what does that really mean? We help organizations manage their healthcare spend as it relates to employee benefits. And as you know, it's continued rising cost in the U.S., and it's a tool for attraction and retention of new talent. And so our primary focus is how do we help organizations manage that spend and make sure their employees are in the right programs so they can utilize their health insurance.
Very good. And talk a little bit about your history and how you ended up getting a Businessolver and ascending to the top job.
Yeah, and been with the organization now 8 years, and really it's we started off, I think I was the number 3 or 4 salesperson, and the organization has continued to grow, intentional growth year over year, and was fortunate enough about 3 years ago to have an opportunity to interview for the role as the head of sales for Businessolver, and it's been a whirlwind. Yeah, so it's been a whirlwind the last 3 years for sure.
And I know some of our audience, they love to hear sometimes how different people bump into different people. So how did you end up hearing about SBI?
Actually, a good mentor of mine had started a monthly group where other heads of sales or sales leaders got together. And we used it was 2014, as a matter of fact, we used the How to Make Your Number book. We would all talk about, okay, in our organization, what's the impact? And how can we learn from one another and share? And so that evolved to, in 2015, we had an opportunity to do a diagnostic, and we looked at several different consulting firms and introduced SBI to the mix, and we did a full diagnostic in 2015.
So here's 2 takeaways that I have from the story Dave just shared. Number 1, I don't know who the other people are in that group, but I'm going to be getting a list of those people after the show and calling them. All kidding aside, whenever you think about the content you produce as a marketer, you're sometimes wondering, are people using it? Is it resonating in the market? If nothing else, as you think about what you produce, if it's helping others do their job better, which is a big component of what we do, sometimes you get lucky by things like that happening. You got to give yourself a chance to get lucky, as a good friend of mine once told me. So if you're watching or listening out there, don't miss any of the new SBI TV shows. We release 2 to 3 of these a week. If you're an iPhone user, you just download the SBI app. You'll have access, notifications brought to you for your commute, your travel, or your CrossFit routine if you are a workout fanatic. Just search for Sales Benchmark Index in the App Store and download it to your iPhone. And Dave and I, in this first segment, we're going to discuss the emerging function of customer success and talk specifically about what's new and what's different about it. So I guess, Dave, to normalize, when did you first hear about customer success as a concept? What was your reaction, and how did you think about its applicability at Businessolver?
Interestingly enough, I think the term customer success has been hiding around in organizations with underwhelming terms like cross-sell, upsell, land and expand. And I think organizations have continued to try to think about that in a reactionary mode. And I think the term customer success, in the way we view it and why it's important and from our evolutionary process, is a true focus on customer outcomes. And what's that? The original relationship that they partnered with the firm for. Are we delivering on that relationship? Are we delivering on those commitments? So when we think about customer success, that's why it's so important to us, because it's all about the outcomes. It's all about what does the customer need, when they need it, and how is the organization going to continue to deliver.
How did you guys think about, I know many of the folks we talk to right now, they think about customer success sitting underneath an overarching strategy of customer experience design. When we're very early right now in B2B, getting good at customer experience. So you talked about these outcomes. did the experience, like how I'm engaging with Businessolver as a customer, how the usability, right, of all of the new health and benefits information that I have, like how did you guys sort of split experience with outcome, or did you go outcome first and then experience along the way?
I think it's a great question and a great term with customer experience, because I really look at, that's what my role is, right? It's helping the organization deliver on the customer experience, whether it's the first time we interact with them from a new prospective client and we're introducing content or having a story or a conversation with them, all the way through the life cycle of a client. And so outcomes are certainly a part of that, but the experience is, if you think about, we're a cloud-based solution and most of our clients sign multi-year agreements. So you think about the first year of a relationship. I mean, by the time our clients are even have implemented, let alone gotten through the first year, we've rapidly developed and advanced technology far beyond what they had available to them. So when you think about the outcomes and the experience, it's how do we help them take advantage and how do we help them continue to grow in the product so they can put their organization in the best possible position.
What were some of the initial hurdles you had when you guys rolled out customer success, and how did customers react to it? Did they even notice?
It's been an evolving process, certainly, and I think it went from, wow, we've grown over the years, and now we have this big, every year clients are renewing, or we have to look at renewals. And so I think that was the first kind of, all right, well, how do we think about that? And I think the organization was very quick to point out, if you're just talking to someone about a renewal after 3 years of doing business with them,
way too late.
Yeah, you're way too late to the game. Couldn't agree more. And so I think customers now are understanding that the main role of a customer success lead that we're putting in front of them, the main objective is to help them see around corners. Teach them something about their business that they don't know. Take all this data that we continue to gather about not only their programs, but about how their members interact with their programs and help them drive better programs that lead to longer retention rates for their employees, or go out and help them attract better talent in the market. So
you talk about see around the corner. So is it safe to assume that as a tenant in the customer success function, there's a proactive motion of packaging up data, insights? Like, how do you operationalize that? Because if I'm listening or watching, I'm like, okay, sounds good, but I've got a customer success department of 77 people. What are they doing right now on Tuesday that I can make them more effective at, based on what I just heard from Dave?
Absolutely. We're the biggest users of our technology, and our customer success, it's not even a requirement. It's mandatory for continued employment. Is you have to understand how that data impacts your client, because there's trends in the data, and there's changes in healthcare, and it's how do those trends come together, which can help us. We're seeing lots of different clients from lots of different industries, so we can see emerging best practices. We can see where organizations have potentially rolled out new programs and inadvertently had unintended consequences. So our job is to bring that to our clients to say, here's some emerging best practices that you can think about and take advantage of. And here's some things as you think about rolling out these programs, here's some things to think about. Here's some down the field things that might happen as a result of implementing these programs.
All right, so if you think about sort of wrapping up this first segment and how Dave positioned how customers and prospects were reacting, a couple things you should take away. One is the packaging up of insights. How often are you right now proactively packaging up net new insight and helping your customers see around a corner, to use Dave's term? So that's number one, is what's the proactive element of customer success? And that's a key tenet. I think number two, Dave, what I heard from you is, because it's ever changing, if I sign a deal with you, in June of 2018, it's going to look very different in March of 2019. So as a customer success leader or representative, I need to be evolving, and I need to be thinking about what's this sort of ongoing job to be done on my client versus what was the problem they thought they had in June. Because oftentimes clients misdiagnose their own problem. Okay, very good. All right, so second segment, Dave and I are going to talk about customer success relative to how it relates to other functions. There's a lot of tension right now in the ecosystem around functional alignment and interlock with customer success. So, Dave, you guys are now down the path, you've launched customer success and began to operate. How did you handle conflicts, overlaps, and the natural tension of this new function inside an established company?
Yeah, and when you were talking there, and you mentioned the word friction, and I think that if I were to give any sort of advice or feedback, I think as a management team, take a step back, and there should never be friction around the customer experience or how it interacts in an organization. Because without successful clients, without clients that are out there in social channels talking about what a wonderful partner you are, you're going to be stuck trying to find new business. And the best way to get new business is happy and referenceable customers. So I'd first challenge the organization, if there's friction, as a management team, where's that friction really coming from? And then start with that, because the entire organization is in the business of customer experience and customer success.
Let's, I guess, talk a little bit about if one was looking for friction points, we often hear the handoff between sales to customer success, big friction point, ball gets dropped, all kinds of tension. How do you guys, how do you mitigate those problems? How have you, a Businessolver, evolved that where your peers might be able to steal a couple of best practices from you?
Absolutely, and I think the friction points in particular in between the sales and customer success, I think that's an interesting one, because I would say that's been a major lift to the organization. And the reason why is, if you take a step back and you think about what's your buyer persona, and when we look at our buyer persona, you have multiple generational buyers now. So if you have one buyer persona, then you better have it broken down into, if it's a head of benefits, for example, well, you better have one for Gen X and a millennial buyer, because those buyers are emerging and they're becoming your target buyers now.
And have totally different information needs and totally different requirements.
Absolutely. And how they want to interact with sales professionals. And as you think about what the buyer's journey is for whatever organization you're in, and we look at ours and we say, how do buyers want to be sold to? The reality is our buyers know that there's a term in our business where they say, hey, you date the salesperson and you marry the operational folks. So the customer success person is one of those people that are with them through the entire life cycle. So the sales process is 3 months, and the client life cycle and the average life of your client is 7 years. The salesperson is really more of a facilitator and bringing that success person into the front. And so I think we were quickly able to eliminate that friction point, because I think it enhances our sales process and it creates an experience that our buyers want to buy in.
So is it, am I to infer from your example that then you're pulling a customer success rep or manager or somebody like that into the sales campaign to allow a prospect to say, hey, this is who's going to be working with
you? Absolutely. And interview them. Right? Because if you're interviewing me as the salesperson, you're going to be disappointed in my ability to deliver for you for your annual enrollment. Right?
You're the sizzle guy. All the steak sits with customer success. So that is an interesting concept. I will tell you, if you're the CEO of a management consulting firm, you're very often putting the team in front of a prospective client before they say, yes, we want to do a project, because they want to say, well, who's the team? What I heard from you is you're taking that idea relative to a cloud-enabled solution, but going, listen, at the end of the day, this person's going to help you generate an experience, but they're also going to help you generate an outcome. So I want you to interview them. That must have given you and continues to give you a competitive advantage in the marketplace. Yeah, I believe so. And it gives our clients an opportunity to who's going to be the extended team. These organizations are strapped for administrative resources. And so if your customer success person is someone that I can really depend on, it's really sitting next to me and helping me lift my head up and look at the 100-meter target, not just the 25-meter target, now I've got a true partnership. Okay, so last question in this piece. How did you think about sales operations, enablement? What's the support motion for customer success? It's funny, there was an SBI article that came out, I think it was just a week or so ago, that talked about revenue enablement. And it seems to be that's an emerging term. And well, I kind of laughed. We didn't have a fancy term for revenue enablement. But if nothing, we can get you fancy. Right. And so
But if I look at those functions in the organization, I would put deal desk in there.
Yeah.
It's about driving consistency, driving rigor and discipline, and how we think about new customers and how we think about our existing customers. And so we're doing the same sort of data analysis on prospective clients as we are with current clients. So from a sales ops perspective, all that data is intertwined. And from an enablement perspective, the learning paths in terms of messaging and how we want to go to market and how we want to position and how are we training on new products and services, it goes across the organization right into success. And so we look at that as one function in the organization. Yeah. I like revenue enablement. I think we're going to steal that from SBI.
Take it. Well, what I hear from you, and if you're watching or listening, what you should take from Dave is the construct relative that enablement and being proactive in customer success, you've got to have a center of excellence. Mm-hmm. So our message and our sort of position in that is that it's no longer sales enablement as a stovepipe. You got to think about revenue enablement because it's a revenue life cycle. Absolutely. And to your point, I spend 3 months with sales. I spend 7 years with customer success. Who needs more enablement? Right? I mean, I'm not a math guy, but 7 years is longer than 3 months. All right, so in the third segment, Dave and I, we're going to talk a little bit about churn and this construct of, Dave made the joke earlier about, cross-sell and upsell and what that looks like, but there's a real methodology to think about incremental revenue expansion and how you generate that, and if you think about the experience outcome 2x2. So what do I mean by that? If you're sitting at home, right, or you're working out right now, remember this image. If I've got experience on the vertical axis, I've got outcome on the horizontal axis. I want to be in the upper right quadrant. I want to generate a great experience. I also want to generate an outcome, right? So how are you doing on your experience outcome 2x2? Dave and I are going to jump into that. So, Dave, with that as the construct, we think about cross-sell, upsell, and there's many different philosophies relative to what comes first. Create the good experience, ask for the expansion revenue. If I see the expansion revenue, send in a subject matter expert. Where do you sit?
Yeah, and we do think about it in terms of adoption and expansion. Yep. We think about how are we helping our clients adopt the functionality, adopt the tools within the system that really help drive that deep partnership that we're looking for. So I think about that as the experience. And then the outcomes seem to follow that. And we've had a lot of success with the outcomes following that because oftentimes, again, going back to the 7-year example, you have a client that doesn't know that you have developed new products and services. So along being proactive, and I go back to that term, seeing around corners, if I'm really doing my job as a strategic partner and helping you see around corners, oftentimes it's, hey, did you know that we can also do these things for you? And as on your journey is to be more efficient with your administration team or to drive better outcomes for your programs, here are additional products and services that you can take advantage of.
Knowing that, how does the marketing function help support customer success?
Absolutely. I heard a term yesterday. It's not about sales and marketing alignment. It's about sales and marketing partnership. And I thought that was a really important term and the way we think about it at Businessolver. And marketing, customer marketing is just important as prospective marketing. And we've been very intentional with the way we've looked at our clients and said, how do we interact, whether it's monthly updates from a compliance perspective and making sure they have what they need, as well as customer experience venues. So getting close to their hubs, maybe it's Boston, maybe it's Chicago, and getting users together and creating communities. Marketing has been a huge partner for the team in order to drive those outcomes.
Very good. All right, so last question. You guys have been on a great run, right? Very, very exciting times at Businessolver and great success. So, and I know customer success has played a big part of that. What's next?
Yeah, for us, you said you weren't a math guy and you laid out the 3 months and the 7 years and you talked about enablement. And I think that's really where we're going to continue to put in place more chips. Because I think the more we can grow our success leads and the more we can help educate them to interpret data in a meaningful way, that it continues to challenge our customers in the way that they are thinking about their business.
Yeah.
I mean, the healthcare in America is changing. It's constantly changing. And so our success leads need to be in a position to help them take advantage of those changes and see out in front a year, 2 years. And so we're going to continue to invest in the training, development, and education so we can put our success leads in a position to be that true advocate for the client and help them, see around corners.
Very good, man. Jam-packed. Always great to see you.
Always good to see you too.
Yeah, thanks for coming by.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Obviously, continued success. Give my best to the Businessolver team when you get back home.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right, SBI audience, as always, I want to thank you for tuning in. You have a choice where you put your eyes and your ears, and the fact that you'd spend some time with Dave and I, myself and the SBI team, appreciate it. So that's it for today. As always, until next time, I wish you good luck as you try and make your number.
This has been the SBI Podcast. For more information on the studio, SBI's Executive Briefing Center, our team, or to schedule a workshop, please visit salesbenchmarkindex.com.